Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Fantasy 420, where today we have a very exciting episode. It's going to be our premier mock draft episode. We've obviously had a lot of videos previously discussing how I would rank fantasy players for the upcoming 2019 baseball season. So today we're going to put all that together and do a little mock draft and test out our strategies. We're going to be using the fantasypros.com mock draft tool. It's free to use. I'm obviously a big fan of fantasypros.com when it comes to preparing for my drafts. And this mock draft tool is great for many reasons. You don't have to wait for humans to pick, as the AI will select all the spots that you're not using. You're also free from the human trolls who decide to pick Adam Wainwright in the first round. And a lot of the human-controlled players in mock drafts for Yahoo, ESPN, and other platforms will end up leaving after the first few rounds anyway. And then just collect the late round data so you don't have to deal with the human aspect other than you. And it's really nice to do a quick mock draft over time. I obviously like to put my real league drafts as close to the regular season as I can to avoid injuries and get a little bit more perspective on where players are going to be pitching in the rotation and hitting in the lineup and whatnot. So it's good to mock draft over time, see where your sleepers are, where you can get them, where players are moving, who's rising and who's falling when the drafts are moving closer. You can also customize your lobby, as I'm going to show you right now, up to a certain point for free. So you go to Mock Draft Simulator, my boy Francisco Lindor you were looking at for a while in the front. So you can obviously do what type of drafts. These are locked unless you want to pay. So you can choose the teams, draft position, roster positions up to a certain point. So today I'm going to leave it as is, except I'm going to take out the relief pitchers since we haven't gone over that. And I'm just going to add 2 more starting pitchers. That's also a decent league that a lot of people like to run anyway, as relief pitching and closing is a little bit harder to predict, a little bit luckier, and a little bit more team necessary, as the better hitting lineups obviously will be ahead, and then the closers will be much more important anyway. Without getting too into it, we're going to do this league type, and I'm going to randomize a position to make it fun. Where are we going to select? All right, we'll take 8th, right smack dab in the middle of a 12-team league. All right, let's start our pick. So obviously we have our picks here. They recommend who we take. This is the overall pre-rankings, and these are the individuals if you want to sort it by then. So looking at our pick here, I'm going to take Francisco Lindor. I like his value there, and hopefully we'll get some good players coming back. But I've discussed why I like Lindor in previous videos, and I think he's a good spot there at number 8. Unfortunately, we didn't get Harper or Acuna or one of our outfielders to come back to us. So I do like how Chris Sale dropped to us. That's pretty insane value at 17th overall. We get one of the best starting pitchers in the game. So that's a quick mash button there. And we'll see who comes back to us. So I'm going to hide the drafted players. That's another tool that's really important that I like to utilize. And then I can just look here and see who's picked, who was sniped before I could pick. Unfortunately, I would have liked Story to pair there, and Soto would have been really nice, picked right before us. I like the value of Severino. You pair him with Sale, and then I can make a long run on hitters and just pick from who I want, and then I can be confident I have 2 aces going forward. So this is a little bit of a difficult spot I'm in here, in my opinion, and that's why it's good to do mock drafts. I'm going to not select Marte or Davis, and I'm going to go with Hoskins. Hopefully the Phillies sign Bryce Harper. And then I've talked about how I like Hoskins to make that jump moving forward. Not a huge fan of that pick, but I do have Lindor and two really good starting pitchers, and a really good player made it back to me. I've told you guys how I like Marcell Ozuna, and I ended up getting one of my outfielders, and Hoskins could also slot in that outfielder spot if I get a nice first baseman to drop to me. But moving on, we're going to see who we have for our next pick. Strasburg would be really crazy if I wanted to take a bet on him and just have three studs. I'm actually going to go ahead, though, and take Daniel Murphy. I really like the situation he's in with the Rockies. I've mentioned before, he's a nice first base, second base combination that I can use. A little bit of utility there. Moving on to my next pick. Strasburg was unfortunately taken. I was hoping Castellanos would honestly make it back. I would definitely like to buy into him right there. I'm actually going to buy into Justin Turner here. I think this is a nice spot. I think he'll fit my third base slot nicely, and he's going to be expected to produce big time, like I've said, for that Dodgers lineup with a lot of people leaving. And then coming back around, let's see. I like Olsen, I've mentioned. Donaldson steps out to me. Conforto. Gennett is nice. Cano. I have a lot of options to move here. I'm actually going to, I think, take Donaldson. So that way, if Turner doesn't turn up, I can have Donaldson move back on. He can sit in that utility spot. Hopefully he beasts in the middle of that Atlanta lineup, and I have a nice player to come back on moving forward. So there's a few names I like here, and I'll get a couple of picks back to back. Joey Gallo, nice young home run hitter. You can also click here. You'll get a little bit of last year's statistics. Obviously that average will hurt, but the home runs are nice. We also have David Price, Robinson Cano. I'm interested in those three guys. Aaron Hicks, I've also mentioned. German Marquez. So I'm actually going to go ahead and I'll take Cano. He gives me an extra second baseman, an extra first baseman, and then I can kind of see who comes back around. So Price went, Marquez went, and Gallo just went right before, but I like where Aaron Hicks landed. Brantley, not bad if you think he's going to beast up in that Houston lineup, but I am going to take Hicks. Rumor is he's going to hit leadoff for that Yankee lineup out of the gate, and that would be really good for his average, like I've said, getting protected. So I have two really nice players who I like to buy in here. Salvador Perez, really reliable catcher. Missed a lot of last season, only played 129 games, but still ended up with 27 home runs, 80 RBIs, 233, but that Royals team isn't that great. He's going to be hitting in the heart of that order. I like Archer too. I'm actually going to take Perez though, shore up that catcher position. Then I won't have to worry about it. I was obviously hoping that Archer would make it back. He did not. I haven't taken a pitcher in a while, but see, that's what I really like about these. You can sort of feel it out, take your best player available, and then there's going to be a lot of options later on in the draft if I want to take pitchers. And then moving on, I'm not a huge fan of McCutchen. Moving to Philly, Devers have never been that great. I like Mazzara maybe as an option here, or Piscotty. We can take a look at that, 23 years old. Like I said, Rangers aren't great. He's going to be hitting in the middle of that lineup. Decent hitter. The young prospect hasn't fulfilled that yet. I've said I might want to buy into Piscotty. Maybe Piscotty will make it back, so I'll take Mazzara here. Maybe he can fulfill some of that potential. Buster Posey went. That was unfortunate. I was hoping to maybe get him, pair him up with Perez, and have a really nice catcher combination for off days. Maybe one of them gets hurt. And then I have a nice backup. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. I did have Piscotty come back, so I will smash him here in that spot. And then probably make a run for some pitchers here, as I have put that off for a while, but I love my hitting lineup. That's a really nice hitting lineup, and now I can sort of call my shot on some pitchers, sort of maybe screw some people over on some other hitters. I am going to smash Bieber here. I've mentioned why I like Bieber. He's got a nice spot in that Indians rotation. Prospect who's done well in the minor leagues, lots of pitches. He's going to be in that crummy division, and he should feast. So I really like Bieber there. I have Quintana, Glasnow I've mentioned. I really like Gausman. I've really liked him. Let's see who's up here. Nobody I really pops out to me. I think I want to take some of these pitchers that I wouldn't want to miss out on. Quintana, Eovaldi look nice. I'm actually going to take Glasnow. I think he'll have a steady spot in that rotation, and I really like him going forward. And I really don't want to miss out on Gausman. I think he's going to do extremely well. Like I've said, young guy, moved over to that Braves team. They bought into him, pumping him up. Real big fan of Gausman. Eovaldi went, Arrieta went. I would have been willing to buy into him. Freeman, Newcomb, I've mentioned him in my video. I would have been willing to buy into him. Wood, also a nice pick there. But we have a few bench players we could look at right here. If we want to buy into Cabrera, maybe a comeback season. Braun, first baseman, outfielder. And then you can click on them. They'll pop up right there. Looking, see our pitchers. I'm actually going to take Alex Reyes here. It's also important to take players that you don't want to miss out on if they don't come back to you. And I would be really upset if I didn't get Alex Reyes there. So I'm going to take him. And then Braun, Cabrera, they're still there. I'm actually going to take a risk here. I will take Miguel Cabrera. Maybe he can stay healthy, have a comeback season. He's still making a ton of money. He's going to play. Unfortunately, Taryn went. I really liked him. Maybe take a risk there with Taryn, possible number 1 for that Braves team. Maybe take a look at a backup catcher in case something happens with Mr. Perez. Catcher is down here. I like Wellington Castillo. For a catcher, he's going to hit really high up in that lineup. He's going to be looking for a contract upcoming, and he's going to be hitting really high for a catcher. So I'm actually going to take him there. I wouldn't want to miss out on him, and I have a nice little catcher duo when they miss days and whatnot. And then Tyler Skaggs is there. I really like him. Mr. Braun, Adam Eaton, late round steals. A little backup outfield position. Bryce Harper most likely gone. They're going to look to him. There's a few names maybe over here. Skaggs, not bad. Strikeouts. He's going to need to step up when they're not going to have Ohtani. Excuse me. I'll actually take Skaggs there. The next best starting pitcher, according to the rankings. Unfortunately, Braun went. Seager, I would have been willing to buy him. Right? Jed Lowry, I mentioned, would have been willing to buy into him. And Adam Eaton is still there, and I'm going to take him, like I mentioned. I really like him for various reasons. And not really too fond of any of those guys. We will move down. Justin Smoke. He's going to hit really high for that team. Not necessarily needed, but maybe he starts off well and I can offload him. CJ Cron, I've mentioned. Let's move down to our starting pitchers. Sonny Gray, I've mentioned, if you want to buy into him. Soraka, if he sees a spot in that rotation. Forrest Whitley, Michael Wacha, all decent players to buy into, depending on who you are sold on. I'm actually going to go ahead and just take a flyer here on Forrest Whitley, just for giggles, and hopefully he turns up for that rotation. And then These are going to be my last two spots. I think I'm pretty set on hitters. And then with Whitley out of that rotation for a while, maybe I'll just use my last two picks on a couple pitchers. It's unfortunate that Smoke is still available, but like I said, if this were a real team and I'm treating it as that, and I wouldn't have Forrest Whitley for the start, I would take a couple more pitchers, in which case I'm going to take Michael Wacha. Low ERA, high wins in that lineup. And then I'll take a risk on Mr. Sonny Gray. Hopefully he turns out for that Reds team who paid a little bit of a price for him, and they'll give him a little bit of protection. And then this is a little bit nice. I wouldn't take too much stock into this. Sometimes you're going to get a B, maybe a low B if you're not taking who they want at the top and searching for your own players. But I don't mind taking who they pick at times. It's a good barometer on who's around and who you should be picking, holes on teams you should be filling. But I really like this lineup going forward. Nice top to bottom. And then I really like the top end pitchers. I would definitely keep my ear to the ground on starting pitching, especially at the start of the year, see who's hot, maybe catch a Fultonwitz from last year or something. But I really like the hitting lineup, and it's just a good overall team. Anyway, that was really fun first mock draft, guys. Thanks for joining me, and I will talk to you tomorrow with another video. It was a pleasure.